All right, welcome back to the Carton Show. There you go. Headlines right out of the gate. Patrick Mahomes, best quarterback in football. But I got to be honest about it. I want to dislike him in the worst possible way.
You still can, Craig.
And I don't. And I need him to be a villain. I need him to be that kind of douchey villain of a great team. It's what makes sports special when you find people and teams to root against. And I'm struggling on this one because I happen to like him a lot. And he seems like a guy I could have a beer with and enjoy a nice afternoon on the deck, barbecuing up. But I'm dying to hate him. Help me hate him, please.
Yeah, it's tough, man, because the guy, all he does is win. I think when you talk about him as a whole, you kind of hate everybody around him. That's what makes you hate him.
I can hate Kelsey. That's easy.
Yeah.
You can't hate Andy Reid, just a lovable guy. I can hate Kadarius Toney. There's guys I can hate. But I want to hate so much. Hate is such a good passion to have.
It's tough because listen, this was his hardest road to the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah,
everything what they dealt and everything they had gone through as a team to beat Baltimore in the fashion they did it. I mean, this was a legend.
So outside of Cincinnati and Buffalo, the obvious ones. How do we build hatred towards this guy?
As a Bronco. And watching him beat the Broncos 16 straight times.
Right, talk about it.
You would think that I would have nothing but the white-hot intensity of 1,000 suns.
Yeah, detest him.
Yeah, and I cannot hate him.
Come on, you got to join me in the hate parade.
I would love to hate this guy.
Right.
And regardless of how good he is, and if he becomes the next kind of quote-unquote GOAT, there's something about him that's not
and you know
detestable.
one of the reasons I think
crazy.
Jacoby, I'm having trouble hating him is because it's so easy to dislike his wife. It's so easy to dislike his brother.
Right.
Yeah.
And yet he just seems like, a nice guy, a guy that could be your buddy, a guy if you're like, hey, we're going to the Wawa to get some Slim Jims. You in? He'd be like, I'm driving. Yeah. He just seems like a good dude.
My problem with him is the same problem I have with Steph Curry, is they're so good, but they're so nice, and they're having so much fun, and they're so likable. And I wanted to hate Patrick Mahomes for calling him soft, but then whenever he's mic'd up, he's a dog out there.
Yeah,
it's just like I can't find a reason to hate him. However, you mentioned it, and I'll just say it. His brother.
Oh.
Yeah.
His brother, I think what happened was
Jackson
his
Mahomes
brother
or something?
sucked up all the negative personality traits in the family, and he got all the good ones. That's the problem.
Now, I do think, look, you live in Denver, you and I live in Jersey, you're in New York City. I do think if we were doing this show, let's say specifically to the Cincinnati audience, I could load up 1,000 people at the front door who could explain why they hate Patrick Mahomes so much. If you went to Buffalo, I guarantee I could find people that could really articulate their hatred of Patrick Mahomes. But I'm a Jet fan. I don't hate the guy.
Yeah,
I don't.
I don't. The other thing, he's got this quality of being almost the way he speaks like a Sesame Street character.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So the Kermit,
right? Like it's easy, and I love Tom Brady. I think he's the world's greatest American. But he's handsome. He's beautiful. He's like I did his last game, his last regular season game. Tom Brady's. So I'm in the tunnel, and Tom Brady is walking. We're like so we stop and talk, and he gives me a hug, and we went cheek to cheek. And it's like I found the cure for ED. There is no question.
Nice.
We went cheek to cheek. I was like, it was the greatest thing that's ever happened. I haven't watched that.
I got to be honest. I'm aroused now. Just
I would say
it sounded like it moved. It moved.
Was it facial cheeks?
Yes. So it's easy. It's easier to dislike him because he's beautiful. He's perfect.
Yeah.
Mahomes has got some. He's got the flaw of the voice.
I can find some reason to hate Mahomes. Little tantrumy this year for my taste.
Okay.
Little tantrumy. Okay. Remember the Buffalo game with the refs, and there's a game after that with the receivers. He kind of like lost his cool a little bit this year that I haven't seen before.
Yeah.
I'm reaching. But
well, if throwing tantrums is a reason to hate somebody, there's a room full of people upstairs that don't like me right now.
Right.
One of them sitting over there. All right. Headline number 2, Nick Bosa called out everybody in the media. It seems like there's less and less of these people who are talking poop about Brock Purdy, and he came out and said, what do you have to say for yourselves now? Look, there's a segment of people, some of them work here on the show, Greg Jennings and Plax are with them as well, who just don't buy into the notion that San Francisco's winning because of Brock Purdy. Even the comeback against Green Bay and obviously the comeback against Detroit. there's still, although smaller, a bit of a narrative that Brock Purdy's along for the ride.
Yeah, but
not factual.
But I also think what Jacoby said yesterday, I think people are starting to quiet that. I think you talk about back-to-back weeks, leading his team to victory, coming out in the second half. Even I thought Shanahan had said it in his press conference, that opening drive coming out of the second half, they only came away 3 points. He thought that was a missed opportunity because he just knew Detroit was just going to be coming and
I think we all felt that way.
Yeah, but they didn't. It was him, really, and I said it yesterday, it was his instinct that took over the game. We know he can throw the ball. We know he can do things within the pocket that a lot of quarterbacks can't do, but it was his instincts that took over. Say, you know what? That's a football play.
Yeah, he won that game with his feet. I mean, his ability to scramble and make some plays off schedule, that's what won that game. And then he had a couple of dimes just throwing the football. But the bottom line last 2 weeks is he's done exactly what he had to do to help his football team win a game when offensively, I'll be honest with you, that's probably two of the worst offensive performances back-to-back that they have put out there
to start
on the entirety on the entirety of the season. So, you can sit there. There's nothing wrong with managing a game. As a matter of fact, it's what you're supposed to do at that position. And then when you're called on to make a big-time play on third down, you make it, whether it's with your feet or whether it's with your arm, and that's what he's done the last 2 weeks.
Brings us to our final headline. It's a good segue because this goes from Nick Bosa talking about Brock Purdy to Brock Purdy. And here's one of the best side stories. Brock Purdy is disproving every snap that you don't need to pay a quarterback $40 or $50 million a year to get solid quarterback play. Now, to be fair, he's an outlier. Obviously, where he got drafted, the opportunity to play on such a good team, to win the way he's won. But it does disprove the notion that the only way to find a great quarterback is in the first round of a draft or a guy that has to be paid a couple $100 million. I'm not saying that's going to set a new trend, but if I'm a GM, I at least have to consider a guy like Brock Purdy and his success and how he got scouted and how everybody else missed him for 5, 6, 7 rounds of the draft.
Yeah, here's the thing that drives me crazy about the draft. And, it's inexact science, but when it comes to the quarterback position, like the majority of the quarterbacks in the National Football League that are there right now were drafted in the first round. It's the way it's overdrafted, and a lot of those guys are second and third round talents that get drafted in the first round. But
because everyone's so desperate to get a guy.
The success rate of those guys is about 25%.
It's a lottery pick.
Right. Yeah. So you tell me, like I saw this in the divisional round. Hey, 7 of the 8 quarterbacks in the divisional round were first round picks. Really, how's Cleveland feel about the first round pick of Baker Mayfield that's playing in Tampa right now? How's that help them? How has Detroit, that guy was a first round for them, was a first overall pick in Jared Goff that didn't work out for them. They thought so much of him that they had to get rid of him because they said our ceiling with him is not a Super Bowl championship. He doesn't pass the confetti test. So you can give me all that first round garbage you want, but I just don't buy into that. It's about draft, and then it's about developing guys.
Yeah, look, and the 2 greatest quarterbacks of the last 40 years, one was a 6th-round pick, and one was not the first overall pick, and 10 teams passed on Patrick Mahomes before Kansas City had them fall in his lap.
Yeah, but Purdy is an enigma. You talking about Bailey Zappi was drafted over him, Kenny Pickett, Sam Howell, all these guys was drafted over him. It was his durability in college. And if you watch him, and those who paid attention, he ran the ball in college too, right? He was a total package. The fact that he played Iowa State, and he just didn't have the numbers like some of these other quarterbacks. Everybody's like, he'll just be out of here early. But you got to give him his flowers.
Well, look, we got lots here. There's a great comparison between a guy that's made more money than any quarterback in the league, Patrick Mahomes, and a guy that's making less than $1 million a year. That's the rub on that. That's why going into this Super Bowl, you've got one guy who represents America, Brock Purdy, and another guy who represents Wall Street, and that's Patrick Mahomes. I can't wait.
America wishes they made
God, I wish this game was tonight. Coming up. Hey there. Thank you so much for watching The Carton Show. You can subscribe right here to get all the latest bits and segments from the show. And by the way, while you're at it, we have a lot of great shows on FS1, so check them out too.